Hello guys, this session is going to be looking at the web server, and I'm planning to do a few of these sessions with a few different web servers, and this one, the one that I'm starting with, is the Apache Web Server. So I'm going to be going in chronological order, and the Apache Web Server is the oldest web server that I'm going to demonstrate to you guys. You'll see how simple it is. And you'll see that as the web server evolves, how additional functionality is added to the web server, and you'll see why. You'll see what was Apache not able to do, and why, what functionality and features were added to the newer web servers to allow the web server to host a website like the modern websites that we know today. So just to give you a demonstration of what we're talking about, here I've just gone to a website. Okay, so by going to this website, right, and browsing this website, what I'm actually doing is I am interacting with a web server. Okay, the web server is hosted at this address, so this is the host name of the web server. Okay, and as I go to these different pages, right, you'll see that the pages have a path. Okay, so this is the path component of the URL. And you'll see that this path is basically it's the same kind of path that you have on your file system on your computer. Okay, so you can see that we've got a South Africa folder. Inside the South Africa folder, we've got a news folder, right? And then we've got this file sitting in that folder. Okay, so yeah, as you click around this website, you're interacting with a web server. Right? You're making requests to a web server, and the web server is responding to you. So this is basically what's happening. Okay, as you interact with this website using your web browser, it's sending HTTP requests to the web server. The web server is returning an HTTP response to you. Now, the Apache Web Server is basically just got a bunch of files sitting on that web server, and all it's doing is when you enter in that URL and you make that HTTP request, it looks for the file that you've requested, and if it has that file on the web server, it will just return that file to you. That's basically all that it's doing. And if the file doesn't exist on the web server, it will return to you a 404 error, file not found error. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to quickly install the Apache Web Server on this PC, and then we're going to build a simple website with the Apache Web Server. So let's go ahead and do that. To install Apache, what I do is I go to the XAMPP website. So I've just Googled for XAMPP, and it brings up this XAMPP website. XAMPP is just a nice easy tool for installing Apache on your local machine. I clicked on this download for Windows. When it downloaded, I ran the installer, and once it's installed, you get this menu icon down the bottom here. Okay, and you start up the XAMPP control panel. Now let's just hit the start to start the Apache Web Server. Okay, it's given us an error. I know what that is. I didn't run it as administrator, so now how do I get out of this thing? Okay, so I need to right click on this, go more, run as administrator. Yep, now I can start it up. Okay, so Apache is now running. Okay, and I can minimize this. And what you'll see is if I go to localhost, you will see that I've got this web page now. Welcome to XAMPP for Windows. You've successfully installed XAMPP. And I just want to take a moment and just talk about this URL structure, just in case you're not completely familiar with it. So this is, I'm sure you've seen this many times before. This is a URL. The first part of it is the protocol, which we discussed in our last session. So this is going to be communicating using the HTTP protocol. After the colon / / we've got the host name. So this is the address of the web server that we want to connect to, and localhost is a special host name that says just connect to the web server running on this computer. And then after the host name, we've got the path. Okay, so this is the path of the files that we want to get from this web server. Now, one of the lovely things about Apache is that Apache is really just a very simple collection of files and folders. Okay, so let me show you what I'm talking about. Apache has a folder that it is configured to use, and that folder on your computer contains all of the files that it is hosting. Okay, so if you go to this XAMPP folder, you'll see it will give you a shortcut to that folder, XAMPP htdocs folder. And inside the htdocs folder, you will see here are all the files that are included in this little default website that comes installed when you first install XAMPP. And you'll see this file here, /dashboard. Now the one thing to know is if there's no file on the end here, then your web browser knows, or rather the Apache Web Server knows, that there's a special file called index.html. And if you don't actually specify a specific file to access, what it will do is it will look for a file called index.html, and it will just show you that file, even though you can't actually see on the end of this URL that the page you're looking at is called index.html, the HTML file. In fact, it is called index.html. So if I go to this path, okay, sorry, so /htdocs, or rather /dashboard, enter, right? I will see inside this folder an index.html folder, file, and that is the HTML file that you're looking at here. So I'm just going to delete all of this kind of default website that comes installed with XAMPP. Okay, and I refresh now, and I get a 404 because this folder no longer exists, and the file index.html that it's looking for no longer exists. If I look for just the root folder, okay, it gives me a listing of the files right inside that root folder, and there's nothing in there. Okay, so the root folder for this Apache web server is this folder here, and you can see it's empty, and this is showing you an empty list of files. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create a file in here. So I'm going to open up Notepad. I think I'm going to have to run Notepad as administrator because this htdocs folder is owned by administrator. And I'm going to create a file inside that folder. Okay, inside this folder here, c:\xampp\htdocs, which is the web root folder of my Apache web server, and I'm going to create this file and call it hello.txt. Okay, now you can see hello.txt inside the htdocs folder, and if I refresh this web page, right, I can see the hello.txt file there, and if I click on it, right, I'm now asking Apache to give me the file at /hello.txt, so hello.txt in the root folder, and there you go, it returns me this file. Now, if I change this file to that special file name index.html, okay, and if I put an index.html here, right, I get that file. But even if I leave this off now and just ask for basically the contents of the root folder, it will return to me that file, because it knows that if there's an index.html file in that folder and you don't actually ask for a specific file in the folder, it will return to you the index.html file. So let's go ahead and build a simple website. So I'm going to delete this file. Right, now we've got nothing in our web root folder, and I'm going to open up a new window. Now I've prepared a website. Okay, so I've prepared some HTML and CSS and some images in this folder here, and I'm just going to. So if we open this file up using Notepad, you will see file open. You'll see it's just HTML, right? So I'm going to copy this across. Right, so I've copied my index.html file in there, and I refresh it. Right, and here you can see my HTML. It's missing some stuff. Okay, so I'm going to copy across the missing bits and pieces. It's missing images. Now, why are you doing that? And I'm going to copy style sheets, and I'm going to refresh my page. Okay, so here we've got a website that actually looks quite nice, and all it is simple HTML files and CSS style sheet files linked into the HTML and images. Okay, and you can see I've got some other pages here. So I've got a products, and what this does is this is looking for a folder called products. Okay, I'm going to create that folder in my web root. So I'll create this folder called products. And there I've got shows me my empty folder. And of course, if I want a page to display, when I just put in products like that, I need to create an index.html file inside there. And the reason why it's called index.html is because it's like an index of all of the files within that folder. Okay, so it's almost like the page that describes all of the pages within that folder. So I'm going to open up products and copy across my index.html file. Okay, and if I refresh this, right, so there you go. I've got my products, handguns, rifles, antiques. Okay, and if I click on handguns, right, I get a 404. I need to copy across the stuff in the handguns folder. Let's just copy this and paste it in the right location. Okay, right, and there you go. I've got my handguns. Okay, and you can see the path that I'm at is a folder called products, a folder called handguns, and of course, even though you can't see it, a page called index.html. And that's what we've got here. We've got a folder called products, a folder called handguns, and a page called index.html, right? And I've also got a page pistol1, and if I click on this guy here, that is the page for pistol1, right? So that's the Apache web server, and you can see that basically all it's really doing is it's just taking files that are stored in a particular folder, and it's just HTML files and CSS files and image files that are stored in a particular folder, okay? And as you request those files by entering the path into your web browser or using links, okay? And those links basically just have paths in them, okay? Right? You're able to browse around this website, right? Using just by accessing these static files that are sitting on this web server. So hopefully that gives you an idea of what it's like to create a website using the Apache web server.